Welcome to the Nameless podcast. This is the Plog, episode 11. So, I was just thinking about things. So, that's really what this is about. Doing a lot of reflecting, especially on the podcast. So, with the move to Sacramento, I do most of the pods or talking to connections in the commute to my job or dropping off the wife and things like that. So, really utilizing the fact that I spend about 2 hours in the car every day. And now I'm not going to have the 2 hours in the car every day. Uh, I hadn't even thought about this. One, it frees up to be able to find a set location because I'll be able to do it in my home. So it will probably open up the door to be able to do more Skype calls, more interviews because I'll have more free time and more ability to sit down and have a quiet place and a controlled environment. But it just got me thinking. I got scared for a second because I, you know, there's I'm not giving up the podcast at all, but I hadn't actually put for how detailed I try to be. I actually hadn't even thought about, hey, when we're at school and the potential of 2 to 3 jobs with school or 2 jobs and different organizations that I'm going to be assisting or volunteering at or Toastmasters or all the other different things that I want to do. I hadn't even thought about, oh crap, when am I going to, you know, actually sit down and do the podcast or so now that I've actually had this kind of reflecting conversation with myself and started thinking about it, I think I'm going to start blocking out and mapping out some time so that I can actually make that happen. And so I'm excited to see little freaked out and a little worried, and that's just normal because that's just kind of how I am with things until I can really wrap my hands around the clay of what the day and what the week's going to look like. Because right now I've jotted a lot of things down, and not on pieces of paper, digitally within Excel and within Word. But I until I start living and breathing it, um, which I mean right now I can't. I mean I love putting in action. Action really allows me to shape what things are going to look like. But until I get there and start actually making this happen and putting in some action and adjusting things as they need to be adjusted, I don't really know how this is going to shape out or when I'm going to record or how that's going to look, or if I'm going to have to adjust the schedule. So I just want to be completely transparent. Things are going on in my head as to how it's going to look like in 30 days from now. For the podcast. So I appreciate everyone that's been sticking around through the highs and the lows and all the different ebbs and flows to the Nameless podcast. That's gonna be almost to a year. So super appreciative, and I'm grateful of this platform and the ability to create content and to really kind of grow something and see where it goes. I had no idea. I mean, my thoughts of where the podcast was going to go. I mean, one, the thesis of it was really to give me a voice. And then I didn't really know where I could take this thing or how long I would do it or what it would really become. You know, it's not like I have thousands of followers. With what I have, I'm super happy with, and the amount of you know who shows up and who listens is super amazing, and I get to speak and I have podcasts that are in the the pag the podcast store on iTunes, so that's super weird and really cool on itself. Irregardless, I mean I don't even care about rankings, but that's just cool that this podcast shows up in like 11 different places. So that is amazing. And I'm super grateful that Anchor is a platform where I don't have to pay for it, because I budget, and I think if I had to pay $20, $30 a month, I'd have to find a way to fund it, and or not be able to do it, or find a different platform. So super appreciated for that. Anchor's amazing. So if you want to create a podcast, do it on Anchor for sure, because it's not going to cost you anything. And I mean, you could do ads and stuff like that. I choose not to, because that's not really what this is for. The Nameless podcast. It's really just to share a journey, and now it's become a blogging format. Though I mean, I have other content coming. So, but I wanted to kind of talk that out, and I don't really have an answer as to how it's going to be. I mean, it could very well become once a week. Right now, I've got, with the additional time I'm spending in the car now commuting, I've definitely put some extra content in the can. So, I mean, that's great. So I don't envision I'll have that, but I don't know. Who knows where this can go? I've been looking at different digital marketing positions on the campus at Sac State. So my dream, well, not dream, because dream's a bad kind of negative way to say it, but one of my thoughts and one of my pitches would be, depending on if I did get one of those, is to just create a podcast. So like, let's say it's in the Office of Business. It would be a podcast centered around business and growth and students, and interviewing teachers and former alumni and stuff like that. I just think that would be cool. But we'll see what happens. If I get in front of someone to pitch that idea, that is what I'll do. And so, I mean, that would be different than the Nameless podcast. Kind of like what Zach Scriven does with his podcast. Sometimes it's more structured around content, and others it's around automation and all the different businesses he's working with. So it could be something like that. I don't know. I mean, that's just something that, if that opportunity comes up, that is something that I would pursue. I would probably rename it and still have the Nameless podcast, but different things going through my head, if that makes any sense. But we're about a little under a month out. So yeah, we're definitely under a month out. So just wanted to be upfront with, the potential changes once I figure out what that's going to be and what my schedule is going to look like, and how I'm going to still be able to function with the pod, which is super important to me. So there are changes on the horizon. Changes are good. So it will allow me to grow and kind of move the podcast to a different stage. Hey, they'll be able to do interviews in person, or podcasts out and about. She'll give me a reason to get a cool new mic or something like that. So I don't know. So exciting things to come. That's all I have for now. I wanted to share that. It's been rattling around in my brain since yesterday. So I wanted to share that in a blog, because I think understanding where kind of ideas or thoughts begin, and then we can kind of see where that heads to. So that's all I have for now. This is the Nameless Podcast. I'm Matthew Lopez-Kronicz. As always, find me LinkedIn, Instagram, Quora, YouTube, at Matthew Lopez-Kronicz. This is the Nameless Podcast. This is the Plog 11. I'm going to talk to you soon. Have a wonderful day.